We'll go ahead and call our meeting to order and ask for an approval of the minutes. You had a chance to read those.
Yep.
So moved.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
There's a motion by Mr. Wildebohr, second by Commissioner Zappala. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. And on to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Zappala, second by Mr. Wildebohr. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And now we're down to synthetic turf replacement at Legion Stadium. Miss Amy Beatty.
Thank you. So as you all probably recall, we installed the first ever synthetic turf field at Legion Stadium in 2011. And typically those have a lifespan of between 7 and 10 years. We have an amazing grounds crew out there led by Billy Whitehurst, and he's treated that field like it is his baby, and I think he and his crew have done a good job of extending the life of that field as much as possible. We do regularly have the field tested for something called a GMAX rating, and so that just in layman's terms measures the bounciness or cushiness of the field, and the objective there is to have some scientific data to make sure that the field is still safe for participants to play on there. And so the last test date was December 9th, 2022, so almost a year ago. And we did fall into a safe and acceptable range for the GMAX. There's a lot of data in here that I won't pretend to understand, but if you look on page 2, towards the bottom, it has our GMAX result and the acceptable range. And the acceptable range is a minimum of 158 to a maximum of 193, and we tested at 168. So we know that we still have a safe field, but it is not an ideal playing surface just due to its age, and so the time has come to replace that. We have received a quote from the company that installed the field that is there now. This is dated September of 2022. However, Billy has had 2 phone calls with them, I think most recently in June or July, to make sure that pricing was still good. And this quote starts at page 8 of 11 of your agenda packet. And so we validated that this cost is still good. It's not as expensive as the first go round because we don't have to establish the base. They will do some remediation of the existing base, but we don't have to start from scratch. And so the quote consists of the field itself, $546,200. We did ask them to quote us placing New Hanover High School's logo in the center of the field, sewn in there. Currently, that's not the case. We paint it in there. Additionally, letters in the end zone, and there's graphics of these later on in this quote. And you can see all the inclusions, most meaningful that we have asked them to include inlaid markings, so the lines for football, men's lacrosse, women's lacrosse, soccer, and media lines. And so all that comes to rounded up $600,000, and we have recommended a 15% contingency, so all total $690,000. And so the question before the commission is whether you want to recommend cost sharing in this equally among the school district, the city, and the county for fiscal year 2025, and that comes to $230,000 each. I have had discussions with the city manager's office, and if the county and the school district recommend and then their respective bodies vote to include this in their budget, then the city will do the same. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Okay, he has any questions or concerns that the school board should talk about?
Did you hear that, Eddie?
Mr. Anderson?
There we go. Couldn't
There
find
you
out
go.
unmute myself. No, I don't have any any concerns with the cost or the recommendation. And I have talked to Amy, and we would include that in our budget recommendation for next year.
So if everybody knows, I've been answering.
Yeah, there we go. There's the picture.
I don't know if I did it on behalf of everyone, but I figured, because we can get a lot of emails from parents about the danger. I think Mr. Anderson had talked to the AD out there, and he said that it was safe. So, I mean, it does look like it's coming to the end of its life. And then even if you break down the different parts of the field, some are better than others.
Right.
But I mean, not that I understand it all, but whatever the numbers say, I believe. So, if you don't think that price will, you're putting 15%.
15%.
Just in case.
Right, which, I mean, there's no design associated with it, and
Right.
it's pretty straightforward construction, but in 2023, we like to put contingency on everything.
Yeah.
If it was, we're starting from scratch, I would recommend 30%, but I think basically because we know what's there and what needs to be done, I'm comfortable with 15%.
So,
Quick question. I was just gonna ask a real quick question. What's the timeline? If it gets approved for 2023 in our budget, 2024 actually in our budget, then of course it goes to county commissioners. But how quickly does this happen? Would the field be off limits for a good portion of New Hanover's year next year, or how does that work?
That's a great question. What we would try and do from a city staff perspective is have everything teed up and contract ready to go in purchasing, so that as soon as the budget passes and the calendar year rolls over to July 1, we would execute that contract. Ideally, we would actually have the project constructed in July so that we get it done prior to the start of New Hanover's fall season. It's the construction timeline is not that long, because again, there's no demoing, there's no grading, there's just remediation of the existing base and then putting the field on top and putting in the lettering. So I would say less than 30 days, best case scenario. We do have a professional soccer team that is playing at Legion, Port City Football Club, and they do play during the summer. So we would have to try and work around their schedule and see if they can play some away games during that time period. But I think it would be less disruptive for all if we can get it done in the summer. So can't commit to that. There's a lot of moving parts to there, but what I can commit to is that regardless of when it happens, we would try and make sure that New Hanover High School is not impacted. So if we can't get it done in that summer window, then I would recommend waiting until December, January of next year. But of course, that means one more season of fall sports on the field, and I really want to try to avoid that. So we would do our best to get it done in the summer.
Awesome. Thank you.
So Amy, this is Jonathan. I was actually on this commission when we voted to put the initial field in. I think it was just under $1 million then. My question is, why are we waiting so long? Why don't we go ahead and tackle this the first of the year, like January, execute a contract and get it done? I mean, I'm sure the county has some resources set aside that we could allocate. My concern is that, we've got a number of emails from parents that are concerned about the safety of the field. And I know we've done our due diligence to say, well, it's in the safe rating, but God forbid some kid gets hurt out there. And we knew that it had passed its lifespan, so to speak. That's going to put a onus on us or responsibility on us to be concerned about some kid that got hurt. I would rather go ahead and take care of this now, get it done. January, you're not really going to have a whole lot going on the field. I'm not sure whether it's too cold to put it down or not, but in January, but to me, sooner the better. Trying to wait till July, football practice is happening, before then. And if anything were to happen, it would just put things further and further behind. I would hate for us to have to get into a hiccup to where now you got to look at December. Again, we're getting enough emails and concern from parents now. The resources, I believe, are there. Just take care of business.
That is your prerogative as the board. You can make a motion to recommend replacement in fiscal year 2024, recognizing that it's currently unbudgeted, at least from the city. I know we don't have it budgeted, but that doesn't preclude you from making that recommendation and asking for each of the entities to look in their existing budgets for the resources. Stephanie-
Councilman Spears, what are your thoughts, Councilman Spears?
So we don't have any city reps here. I mean, we have,
Kevin's on.
oh, Kevin.
Mr. Spears is on.
Yeah, well,
Hello, Mr. Spears.
do you want to add it to the?
Oh, Mr. Anderson's on now as well.
Okay. Maybe it'd be, I mean, if they heard any of the questions, it'd be very.
Jonathan, hold on, Neil.
Go ahead.
I think you were, I think that you're right. You know, we are getting a lot of concerns about the fields right now and the safety of the fields. But my fear is if we go ahead with this decision and it's not budgeted on the city side, and clearly it's not budgeted on the county side either, right?
We can make things work. We do
Well,
things all the time.
Here's my thing. I don't want you to make it just work on your end and then say the city wasn't, we weren't willing participants, or we weren't, you know, putting in our equal share of what needs to be done, because you know that has been a part of the story for a lot of things when it comes to both bodies. So I mean, I don't think it's bad, and I also don't want us to jump any other important topics that we may need to address that have come to us prior to this. So
I guess my thought is that would probably be the least of my concerns, pointing fingers at anyone. I think we'll give our staff the ability to come back to us and say, yes, we can, or no, we can't.
well, I'm on board with that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if it can't happen, it can't happen. You know, whether the school board can't do it, or, you know, I'm just speaking as one commissioner. There are 4 other commissioners that will need to weigh in on this, but I know that in the past, we've been able to do things outside of the budget season to make things work. And for me, this is just that important, and I just would hate for a kid to get hurt. But what are your thoughts, Commissioner Zappa?
Amy,
Yes.
just let me know the order. If Rob's up, go ahead. Just let me know when you're ready.
Commissioner Zappa, and then we'll take Neil.
If you have a question, Neil, go ahead.
So am I running the meeting, or you running the meeting, Amy?
Yeah, let Jonathan run it.
So Commissioner Zappa, and then Councilman Anderson.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, John. A couple thoughts. One, you know, as we discussed before here, the decision like this financially, because the school's money is the county's money, we're essentially paying 2/3 of this, $460,000 in the current breakdown. And so, and I'm not saying that's pointed one way or the other, but on this particular thing, and on many things, I agree with our chair, Mr. Barfield, that we should move quickly on it. Anecdotally, I have a grandson who has played recently on the field. It is dangerous. I know we have the metrics here to show that it is approaching that, he notes that there are in every game regular burns, rash burns that are happening, tripping that's happening over uneven places that are on the turf right there. And then a particularly, you know, weird thing, because we've been painting the Wildcats logo and stuff on there, it's built up so it's caked up. So as you're running and playing, you hit the area that has had, you know, literally hundreds of coats of paint on it. It's like hitting an ice patch in the middle of the field, and players are slipping, twisting, etc. So I think it's, in the current state, it's much more dangerous than it shows on the metric that we have here. So for all those reasons, I would support moving ahead as quickly as possible on there. I'd like to add one more thought into it as well. I know that the school system is only one of the users of it, and that we have a number of private rentals. As you noted, Amy, earlier, we have a soccer league that is, you know, coming in, and I know there are others. Have we ever considered attaching I would loosely call a preservation fee to the rental rate, so that we set aside on an incremental amount over the years, over the next, you know, 8 to 10 years, that we have the money set aside, so it doesn't come as a big hunk of, you know, money that we have to put forward, that we've got this preservation fee. We know the best day when we put the new turf down is day number 1, and from there, it's a matter of maintaining it, and as it slowly degrades. You know, if we figure out an appropriate percentage that would go on top of the rental rate, it would be clearly defined and say, the private users are helping us build the fund to make sure that we can maintain it, and we will be able to replace it in 2033 or whatever the date is. I guess that's a question.
We do have a ticket surcharge for all the private users of the stadium that goes into a dedicated revenue account that can only be used for improvements to the stadium. However, the amount of private use is so small that it hasn't really banked up to anything. It's under $10,000.
Ouch.
Because we just, I mean, the soccer team that plays there now, it's not, you know, the level of league that attracts thousands of people to their games, that get dozens or hundreds of people to their games and play, I think, 6 home games. So we don't have that resource. We have that resource in place. It's just not building up to where it would be meaningful because of the type of use that's out there right now. I would inform the commission, however, that the city's capital improvement program this year has taken a particular focus to maintenance needs across the city. That includes building maintenance to parks maintenance, and looking at dedicating a minimum percentage of the CIP towards maintenance projects, which we have not done in the past. So there's a much more crystallized focus on the need for maintenance and replacement of items prior to the end of their life cycle. We just had a meeting yesterday wherein we've been instructed to develop a facilities condition assessment plan for all parks and recreation facilities. So I would say going forward, we're positioning ourselves much better to replace these types of amenities before we get to this point.
Terrific.
Councilman Anderson?
Yes, Amy, can you hear me?
Yes.
One, I don't have my email in front of me, but I seem to recall a correspondence last couple months between myself and yourself, and I think Tom Moten, and I thought that the response I recall was they were going to pencil that in and work it in. Is that incorrect?
I'm not anything official from the city manager's office that they would find existing dollars in their fiscal year 24 budget to make that's a certainty. That doesn't.
Well, the email went something like, if the county has put it in theirs, we will as well. But anyway, I'll find that. But our budget season from the council perspective it starts in November. So, we need to put this in there and try to work it in. I think anything other than a vote to do this from this board would be, I don't know, I would feel responsible. We know the situation and have been aware of it, and need to recommend that, in my opinion, to our boards, and see that in the budget process we try to include it. I don't know. I thought that conversation happened. I guess I just need to go back and find it, or maybe I misunderstood it. But I would be all in favor. I'm in full favor of trying to do this next year, and trying to find the funds on the city side. I don't know what else you're looking for, but that would be that's where I stand on it.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
And I'll second that. And just have a question for you, Commissioner Barfield.
Mm-hmm.
Would you think that the county would be able to fund this now with a commitment from the city and schools to include their share in the 2024-25 fiscal year?
I think we could probably make this happen in January.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
We're talking about 23-24. I think we can make this happen in January of this year, not 25.
Well, no, my question is, would the county commissioners, in your thought, be able to fund it, and then the city and the school system promise to pay in the, because our budget, as you know, our budget season starts in January. So I don't know that we have that, and I can't speak for the school system as a whole, whether we would have $230,000. But my question is, would you think that the commissioners would be able to fund it, and then we turn around and commit to repaying that?
I think from the school board standpoint, we would probably work in tandem
Okay.
with you to make that work.
Awesome.
Again,
Well, then-
y'all will be coming for us for a budget amendment anyway to
Absolutely.
release the funds. So
Yes, sir.
sure we could probably figure that out. I'll get with Chris and his team to flesh that out.
Okay. Well, again, I did second the motion.
Amy, a quick discussion question. So I missed that part, and that's on me. So you're looking at trying to do it before the spring sports? Is that what I'm hearing?
That would be my goal, to get it done sooner than later.
Well, I agree. Are we, have you, Amy, sorry, tongue twisted. Amy, have you been in touch at all with people that do this kind of thing and how far out they are? And the situation with the vendor?
I don't have a timeline from the vendor, but I will call them today to see if we can get them beginning January. I think there's enough lead time that I don't think that would be a problem.
Oh, okay. Okay. I guess I just kind of assumed summer, but no, that'd be awesome. All right.
And that'll give our respective staffs the ability to opine as to whether or not they can pull resources together. And if it doesn't seem feasible, for this fiscal year, then of course going into next budget season. But it'd be great if we could get it done early than late, sooner than later.
No argument here, Jonathan. I was just clarifying. Thanks.
I got two questions, two concerns. My first concern is Rob keeps saying that the New Hanover County Schools money is New Hanover County's money. Rob, all of the New Hanover County Schools money doesn't come from the county now.
Hey, Kevin, I can't, we've got some outside activity here. It's hard to hear you. Could you repeat the question?
Well, my concern is you keep that the county is paying 2/3 as it relates to Legion Stadium, and I don't think that's accurate.
Well, the money that runs the school system comes from the county. So I know it may just be an account.
100% of the school's money comes from New Hanover County? No.
Not 100%.
For Legion, probably.
But for something like this, I would say it's safe to say that the money coming to the school system for the repair of Legion Stadium and the turf would be coming from county funds.
Can I ask Eddie that question, because I know we made it a budget priority, and I think Eddie has talked about this. He might be able to answer the question about where that funding usually comes from, and I do believe it's the county, but.
That's correct. We, the school system, Mr. Spears, you're correct. The school system receives local, state, and federal funds, but it's the local county's responsibility to maintain facilities, which would include Legion Stadium. So, yeah, you're correct. We do receive other funding, but in this particular, for this particular scope of work, it would be a locally funded count from the county.
Okay, but in previous concerns we've had about Legion Stadium, we've talked about the breakdown of who has the bulk of responsibility as it relates to Legion Stadium, and if I'm not mistaken, that's been on the city side. We pay most of the bills.
No.
Yeah, Amy.
Historically, Mr. Spears, that's correct. I think this commission in the last 5 or so years has recognized the need for the county and the school district. However, they work it out among their pots of money to contribute more towards the maintenance. I believe the agreement that we just renewed in June or July has that amount at $200,000, which from the perspective of man hours and materials, we're now getting the city is receiving about full reimbursement for man hours and materials. Now, there are administrative costs that are still not being accounted for, utilities, water, sewer, electric, that the city's still bearing. And the city is still bearing the bulk of maintenance for other school used facilities such as Robert Strange and Godwin. But from Legion Stadium's perspective, it's come a long way in the past few years to where we're now receiving $200,000 from the county and the school district annually for maintenance.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure because if Rob is to be paying 2/3 of what's going into or any future ventures, then I want to make sure that's how we keep it.
And it's pretty much all semantics. Again, the county's all in probably $100 million in the school system between operational costs and debt service. We pay for the buildings, they get the buildings. Same thing with K-Fit Community College. We fund the teachers supplement. So the state gives them a certain salary. We have tried to make sure that our teachers are some of the highest paid teachers in the state. The role of the county and city is very different when it comes to public education and school funding. And so local dollars is what really makes things happen. They're a lot more nimble than state dollars. Most of the state dollars have some mandates attached to them as well as the federal dollars. And so again, there's greater flexibility with the local dollars that come from the county, which are the taxpayers in our community. But with that said, we have a motion and a second to.
Well, wait a second, Jonathan. Wait 1 second. Because with that being said, recently we found out on the city side that we do pay a lot into the school system. We contribute a lot of funds to the school system not to have much say. So I don't think that I'm negating the position that you all have as it relates to education in our community. I'm just saying that, we pay our fair share too.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
A motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion?
Commissioner Warfield, I know it's hard to see us over here, but the two of us are in here. I just want to recap what we're voting on. So basically what y'all are saying that the county is going to somehow figure out how to finance this before next budget season and get reimbursement eventually from the city when the new budget season rolls over. Is that what we're voting for?
No.
I understand the motion to be is the recommendation to perform the work in fiscal year 24. Typically how it works is the city fronts the money and we get reimbursed by the city and the school district. However, you all work out that between the county and the school district. It's up to y'all, but we would invoice and you would pay us.
Because they pay the full amount, and so I guess from our councilman here, they're okay with voting for that. That's what I'm making sure.
I'm okay with it. Rob Zappel said he's paying 2/3 of it out of his pocket.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I had clarification. You say the fiscal year 24. In my mind, it's calendar year 24. What I'm hearing from Commissioner Barfield, which I support, is we want this to move forward in January of 2024.
Right.
Are we saying the same thing?
Yes, we are.
Good. Okay.
I'm gonna ask for-
Councilman Anderson.
I think we don't have any money as a committee. We're just recommending to our boards to get their heads together and see how quick we can get this done.
Exactly.
I mean, that's it in a nutshell.
Exactly.
Barfield, may I ask for one discussion item related to the motion? So I want to make sure that you all are voting for the full to recommend to your respective boards, the full $690,000, which includes the logo in the center of the field sewn in, all the sports sewn in, so that's football, men's and women's lacrosse, and men's and women's soccer, and the Wildcat spelling in the end zone, because that's something different than we have out there now. So I just want to make sure that that's what this group is recommending, to have all that sewn in, which I believe is what the school district is doing with the other stadium fields where they're going to be putting synthetic turf in, that they're putting in all the lines.
Is that your motion, Councilman Anderson?
It is, Mr. Barfield.
And are you good with the second on there, Mr. Wittemore?
I certainly am. Yes, sir.
So there's a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Wonderful. We can move on to the next item on our agenda.
I have a question related to this, just for something. So when we get correspondence from parents, which we all get CC'd on or whatever, we can say this is what we recommended to them to, you know, to be done in the winter. Football season ends soon,
In November.
in November. So, and you just need to find out from the company whether they will be able to do the timeline.
Right, and then of course, each of the respective bodies would have to appropriate the money since it's not already appropriated for this fiscal year.
So we have to get that on the agenda, Mr. Wilbur.
Yeah, well, it'll definitely be on our agenda. Very well, we already have the agenda, the Legion committee for a week from Monday, so and I would be fine if Ms. Walker, if you don't mind doing the presentation, that'd be great, or the discussion.
I would just be careful to promise anyone anything. We don't have a checkbook that this committee doesn't. So, you know, we just need to say we've recommended it, and our staffs will work on whether we can help get it done as quickly as possible. I mean, I mean, if you tell somebody January, they're gonna be out there looking in January, and that may happen, it may not.
No, I agree, that's what I said.
Agree. I agree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is there any old business? It sounds like there's no old business. Any new business?
I do have a question. Have we planned another meeting beyond this? I know we put things on the calendar.
Yes, so we do have quarterly meetings on your calendars now, so January, April, July, and October.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Well, I appreciate everyone's time this morning. It was great seeing you yesterday, Neil, at our MPO meeting. And I'll see you in about an hour or so, Commissioner Zappel at Longleaf Park for the CFUA picnic.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? We'll go ahead and adjourn our meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Y'all take
Thank
care. Have
you.
a great day.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Face Zoom, actually.